2024, and even today there are murder cases where the truth is still missing, cases where families are still waiting, cases where investigators ran out of answers, and cases where the killer might still be out there. In this video, we're going to look at 10 real murder and disappearance cases between 2020 and 2025 that remain unsolved or still raise serious unanswered questions. And as we go deeper, you'll realize some mysteries don't fade with time, they only get darker. Suzanne Morphew was a 49-year-old mother from Colorado, living what seemed like a normal, quiet life. But on May 10th, 2020, Mother's Day, everything changed. Suzanne went out for a bike ride near her home and never returned. Later, her bicycle was discovered abandoned on the side of the road with no clear signs of what had happened. As investigators began digging deeper, suspicion quickly turned toward her husband. He was arrested and charged, and for a moment it seemed like the case was close to being solved. But then, things fell apart. Due to lack of strong physical evidence, the charges were dropped, and the case lost its momentum. Today, Suzanne is still missing, and the most important question remains unanswered. What really happened to Suzanne Morphew that day? Harmony Montgomery was just 5 years old, a child who should have been safe, protected, and cared for. But in 2019, Harmony disappeared, and what makes this case even more disturbing is that no one reported her missing for over 2 years. It wasn't until 2021 that authorities finally became aware, and by then crucial time had already been lost. Investigators soon focused on her father, who was later arrested and charged. But even with that, one horrifying detail remains unchanged. Harmony's body has never been found. No confirmed location, no final answers, just a missing child, and a case filled with silence. Where is Harmony Montgomery, and what really happened to her? In August 2022, 16-year-old Kiely Rodni attended a late-night party in California. It was supposed to be just another night, but by morning, she was gone. Her phone stopped responding. Her car was nowhere to be found, and concern quickly turned into a massive search effort. For days, volunteers and investigators searched the area with no success. Then, nearly 2 weeks later, a discovery shocked everyone. Her car was found submerged in water with Kiely's body inside. Authorities ruled it an accident, but many people weren't convinced. Questions about the scene, the timeline, and the circumstances still continue to raise doubts. Was this truly an accident, or is there something more behind it? Jelani Day was a college student with a future ahead of him. In 2021, he suddenly disappeared, leaving behind confusion and concern. His car was later found in a remote area, far from where he was last seen. And days later, his body was discovered in a river. Authorities stated that there was no clear evidence of foul play, but his family strongly disagreed. They believed the investigation overlooked critical details and that Jelani's death was not as simple as it seemed. The lack of clear answers has only deepened the mystery. So what really happened to Jelani Day? Crystal Rogers disappeared without a trace, leaving behind her family and children. Her car was later found abandoned, with the keys still inside, a detail that immediately raised suspicion. Over the years, multiple people have been investigated, and the case has seen several developments, especially after 2020. But despite all the attention, no one has been convicted. The case remains open and unresolved. Who is responsible for Crystal Rogers' disappearance? Lauren Cho was a young woman trying to figure out her life. In 2021, she was staying in a remote desert area in California when suddenly she disappeared. At first, it didn't seem like a major case, but as days passed, concern began to grow. Search teams looked for any sign of her, but there were no strong leads, no clear direction. Months later, her remains were finally discovered in the desert. But instead of answers, this discovery created even more questions. Investigators were unable to determine her cause of death. No signs that clearly explained what happened. No confirmed suspect. Just a body found in isolation. What really happened to Lauren Cho in those final moments? The case of Mollie Tibbetts shocked the entire country. In 2018, she disappeared while going for a jog, and her body was later found weeks after an intense search. A suspect was arrested, charged, and eventually convicted. On the surface, it seemed like justice had been served. But over time, questions began to surface. Some people raised concerns about the investigation, about how evidence was handled, and whether everything presented in court told the full story. Even today, debates around this case continue. Was the full truth really uncovered, or are there still pieces missing from the story? Natalee Holloway's disappearance is one of the most well-known cases. For years, there were no answers, no closure. But recently, in 2023 and 2024, the case came back into the spotlight. New statements, new confessions, and shocking claims. For the first time, it seemed like the truth was finally coming out. But even with these developments, many questions still remain. Was everything revealed, or are parts of the story still hidden? After all these years, do we truly know what happened to Natalee Holloway? In 2022, Eliza Fletcher went out for her early morning jog. It was part of her daily routine, something she had done many times before. But that morning, something went terribly wrong. She was suddenly attacked and abducted in a case that quickly shocked the entire nation. Surveillance footage helped police identify a suspect, and an arrest was made soon after. But as details of the crime were revealed, the brutality of what happened left people disturbed. Even with a suspect in custody, there were still gaps in the timeline and questions about how everything unfolded so quickly. Is this case fully understood, or are there still unanswered details? Aniah Blanchard was a young college student. In 2019, she suddenly disappeared, leaving behind confusion and fear. Her car was later found, damaged, with signs of a possible struggle. Days later, her body was discovered. A suspect was arrested and charged, and it seemed like the case had reached a conclusion, but over time, many began to question whether the full story had actually come out. Was he acting alone? Were there others involved? And most importantly, has every truth in this case really been revealed? If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications because there will be more interesting videos coming in the future.